I had done about 30 hours of research before I even bought my first NFT. I had found more of an NFT influencer's wallet, and I was looking at like things that they were buying. But little did I know that someone could send a fake transaction to their wallet, and that's not actually what they were buying. So I ended up losing, I think it was just under $2,000. To be honest, like I was a little scarred. You know, the scams are out there and you have to learn how to avoid them and protect yourself.
Hey, Lisa, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me, Shannon. I'm excited to be here.
I'm really excited to have you on. I've been, waiting. Not that you didn't book, but I've been waiting to have this episode with you for a while because for two reasons. One is I know that our audience is dying to learn what you're about to offer. And I am too, because I was just talking to you before we hit record that I am a crypto and NFT novice. I have no idea what I'm doing when it comes to that stuff. So I'm excited for you to share everything that you've been learning as you've dove deeper this year.
Yeah, I'm excited to share. And I think just the whole blockchain, digital asset, digital currency is an important conversation to have.
Totally. Could you give our listeners a little bit of background on sort of your background in general, who you are, but also how you got into this subject, how that all connects together?
Yes. So I'm Lisa Seery, and I am an investing mentor and a financial wellness expert. And I really help women build wealth and create impact in their life and in others. And so I got into crypto and NFTs because it really was a mesh of my passions and my background. So the majority of my career, well, all of my career, I spent 18 years working in the investment industry. A large part of that was in equity trading for global asset management firms. And then beyond that, I also worked in financial technology. So when we think about digital assets like cryptocurrency and non-fungible tokens or NFTs, that really meshed together my passion for investing technology. And so yeah, for a large part of 2021, well, for a long time, I ignored crypto. And it wasn't until we had this shift in the crypto space from retail investors like you and I to institutional investors like companies being the primary holders of cryptocurrency. That's when I was like, okay, now I'm listening. This is important because it's not just the retail investors that are holding cryptocurrency, it's now institutions. And the same really went for NFTs, but a little later in 2021. My intuition just was I was fascinated by NFTs and I wanted to play with them and see what they were all about because I'm a curious person. But I kind of just pushed it off like it was like, these aren't real. These are too good to be true. Like these are aspirational assets. They have no real value. And then finally I just gave in and I was like, you know what? I have to see what the hype is all about myself.
And I'm glad you did, because folks like you who decided to be pioneers and just dive in and learn. This is why I love having conversations with you guys to say, hey, what did you find? What's going on? And be able to absorb that. So a lot of folks who are listening possibly are thinking, okay, NFTs, crypto, maybe they think it's a trend, a fad, a thing, it's the Beanie Babies of 2022. What is this? So let's get down to basics. What is an NFT and why do you think it's here to stay?
Yeah. So an NFT is a non-fungible token. And what that means is that it's really just it can be any unit of data and it's stored on the blockchain. So on a cryptocurrency blockchain. And that unit of data can be anything from, art to audio to music. And really the list can go on. So they are one of a kind, meaning no two are alike. So if we're thinking about a fungible token, which is the opposite, Shannon, you have $1 bill and I have $1 bill. If we can easily trade those because they're interchangeable. that's a fungible token. Anything that you can trade, because there are others out there that are like it. A non-fungible token is completely unique, meaning that you cannot just trade what NFT you have for what someone else has, because they are not the same. So the one that you hold is completely individual. And so on the aspect of NFTs being a fad, I totally think that I feel like that's understandable that people think that, but I also think that's just a lack of understanding when people think that it's just a fad, because NFTs, while they started with being just a JPEG image and a collectible and something that you can trade, NFTs today have much deeper value than that. So when you're thinking about an NFT brand that's creating an NFT, they can add all of this functionality to the NFT itself. So anyone who holds and owns one of their NFTs, they could have access to things like merchandise. They could also have access to in real life events. They could have access to metaverse or virtual events, even like things like social clubs, and the list goes on. So while NFTs didn't start off having utility, they've now evolved into having utility. So it's more than just a JPEG collectible. And I think a lot of people don't necessarily understand that there is an underlying value to it. And because NFTs are built on a blockchain, that's what Web3 is, or the metaverse. Essentially, we're bringing the internet onto the blockchain, where the internet is essentially smarter. And it's also, NFTs also have an underlying smart contract. So every transaction that happens with that NFT is recorded on the blockchain. So it's really just not the NFT itself. It's also, we're thinking about the NFT technology and how that future technology is going to serve us, because it's just really a smart way of doing transactions.
So, and from what I've learned about blockchain, I'm picturing it kind of like your passport when you get stamped. It's almost like you know where it's been, you know where it's going. It has footprints on it from trading and from other things like that. Is that an accurate depiction of it? Like it's well tracked in when we see the blockchain, it's kind of a the stamping of, okay, here's where it came from, here's where it's going, and here's what it is, right?
Yes, exactly.
Okay.
That's exactly what the contract shows. It's like, here's when the NFT was created, or when it was minted. And then, as it changes ownership or something happens within that NFT, yes, it's basically like a passport that is stamped, and it's all captured within the blockchain. So basically, it's like full transparency also with your transactions, because it is public information as well.
Right. And I know that a million people are probably thinking, well, what the hell does this mean for taxes too? Right. We get that question a lot. And I actually put up a blog about this, which I can link in the show notes, on how crypto is taxed, but it's going to change. One of the things that I've noticed is that from a tax landscape or regulatory landscape, I feel like it's constantly evolving and constantly shifting a little bit. Do you feel the same way, like we're on a moving train?
Yes, I do. Exactly. Just because digital assets are so new, and, like the same with crypto, we have all of these regulations that are, crypto is already somewhat regulated, but we're enforcing new regulations. The federal government is figuring out what to do with them. Same goes for NFTs. It's like crypto, should crypto are they classified as securities? NFTs, are they property? Like, how should they be classified? So we're just in this whole new era of figuring out the classification of these things, and if they should go under, standard investing rules, and, how they're taxed, like securities and things like that.
Right. And we're all learning. I feel like everyone is there are lots of experts out there, but I feel like everyone is always still learning. There's nobody who's kind of like the top and saying, I know everything about this, because it's constantly changing. What would you say? Now, here's the thing. You're actually coaching women through getting introduced into NFTs, right?
I am, yes.
Okay.
And I absolutely love it. It is so much fun, because I believe we are entering into this new landscape of investing. And I think it's really important to start embracing digital assets as part of that. So yes, I do have a program that helps
Awesome.
women understand and invest and trade NFTs.
What would you say from your experience working with these women? What would you say are some of the roadblocks or the resistance they may have into, diving into NFTs?
Yes. So we are, I think this is where like the psychology of money really comes into play, and the same hesitancies with a lot of women who are, kind of afraid to invest, and how that ties into how we're raised. Oftentimes as little girls, we're raised to, play it safe and don't do anything too risky, like be careful. And we hear this a lot, whereas boys are generally raised to, like, oh, explore that. Yes, have an adventure, swing from the highest monkey bar, have a good time. And so naturally, they're, boys, once they become men, they are more the risk takers, especially when it comes to investing. And so I think women need a little bit more of a push and to see the real value of investing. And so with NFTs, it's even more of like that uncharted territory where it's brand new. Yes, we can use them to make money, both cryptocurrency and NFTs, but like, is it safe? Because safety is always something and security is always something that's important to women, especially because we're emotional with money. Men the same thing, but men are still willing to take more risk. And I think that just because digital assets are so new, women do hesitate, and they may not necessarily just understand the value just yet. So yeah, I think those can be some of the roadblocks as to like, do I really need to learn this? Because what's the value? I can't really conceptualize how this will benefit me now and in the future.
Right. I couldn't agree with you more with your assessment of that and saying, yeah, it's really about risk taking and about how you're wired to accept risk and how you
Yeah.
view money. Uh, and based on that, what are some of the I guess the results from your coaching? What are you seeing in terms of results from either from you personally, if you'd like to share, or from the folks that you're working with? What are people experiencing once they're getting into NFTs?
Yeah. So it's been super exciting to see the women get more comfortable navigating the NFT space. That, initially it kind of feels foreign. It feels like learning a foreign language. But someone who was in the last round of my program said it perfectly when she said, it's like a hobby. I feel like I'm now having conversations with so many people about NFTs, and it feels like I'm having such a good time. It doesn't feel like the money that I'm making is actually secondary to that. And it's just something that's really fun to do. And other women, it's been really exciting to see them really learn how to identify really good entry points to buy into an NFT, because that's how people make money with NFTs, right? With any investment, you want to buy low and hopefully sell higher than what you paid in order to make a profit. So seeing the women really get comfortable with doing that and navigating that and just having fun in the process has been a blast. And it's a total reflection of how I felt when I first entered the space. I bought my first NFT in November. And then, so the first 5 weeks, I ended up more trading some NFTs, because my goal when I went in was, okay, I'm putting a certain amount of money towards it, but I wanted to build liquidity to have more money to put towards NFTs in the future. So I wasn't really looking for long-term holds. At that point, I was doing a bit more trading in the beginning. And after fees and things like that, I figured that in a 5-week period, and also the tool that I use that helps you track what your profits are, I was like, wow, that was almost $12,500 I made from NFTs in 5 weeks. I now
Wow.
understand how 13-year-olds are making more than their teachers, right? And that's
Wow.
kind of crazy. Like, is this reality? And that was my hesitancy getting into them. I really thought that was a little too good to be true. And now, the market is always changing, and it's definitely easier to short-term trade, not necessarily day trade NFTs, but even like holding them for a week or something like that. It's much easier to do that in a bull market than a bear market. But it is simple to do that right now with NFTs. Like, that's an actual reality. And we also have like the passive income side of NFTs that's evolving as well.
So what would you say if you had to sort of profile someone who is ready to get into NFTs? What would you say are either descriptors, or how do you know when you're ready in terms of maybe it's risk tolerance, maybe if it's how much money you have to play with, and things like that? How would you characterize that?
Yeah. And I think that it's really, I don't like to put people in boxes in terms
Right.
of when they're ready to invest in any asset class. As long as with NFTs, you understand that it's an extremely high risk, it's considered an alternative asset, right? So when you think in terms of your overall portfolio, the percentage that you want to put into high risk assets, that's your decision. But understand that the money that you put in could easily, $500 today could be, $50 tomorrow. Like, you have to understand that, because they're so high risk. So really be comfortable with that. So in assessing your own risk, I always say, like, tap into, like, I give them examples of like what Bitcoin was in December versus January, because there was like a huge 34% drop. And I'm like, how does that feel? Like, sit with that, because you have to understand that if that doesn't feel good, then you likely want to start with a much smaller amount of money allocated and invested in NFTs. And as you get more comfortable, then to increase the amount of money that you have allocated towards it.
Right. And if someone's looking to get started, where do they start? Because I actually find myself in that situation where I'm going, okay, what app do I download? What platform or exchange should I be on? How does this actually work? Like, how do I actually get started? Where do you tell people to go?
Yeah. So Twitter is the social space for NFTs. The NFT world moves very fast, and Twitter is where it all happens first. So following people on Twitter is super helpful. I watched a lot of YouTube channels initially. I still do, to stay up to date. I'm usually watching YouTube videos every couple days. What's also great about the NFT space is, it's funny because I say, like, the new earnings calls for the NFT space are like Twitter AMAs or Twitter spaces with NFTs. So listening to those is very helpful. Also, I think it's important to, once you find a project that you're interested in, either via chat on Twitter or something like that, to follow those projects. And they also have a Discord community. So the Discord is a space where people just chat about the project. You can get a vibe for the project if you're interested in it. And also, that's where all of the announcements happen about the project. So something that is really important, though, in the NFT space is that you have to understand there are a lot of scammers trying to get people's money. And that was something that I fell for initially. I thought I had done all the things. I had done about 30 hours of research before I even bought my first NFT. And the first one that I actually purchased, I did a great job. The second one, I went about it in a way where I had found more of an NFT influencer's wallet on OpenSea. And I was looking at like things that they were buying, but little did I know that someone could send a fake transaction to their wallet, and that's not actually what they were buying. So I ended up losing initially about, I think it was just under $2,000. To be honest, like, I was a little scarred to actually figure out like what I actually spent, because I did that with a couple of different collections, but it was around that. And I feel like sometimes that's part of the learning experience, because you really do have to know how to safely navigate the space. It is, that's one of the worst things when someone says to me, why aren't my NFTs in my wallet? Or, like, where did my NFTs go? And, the scams are out there, and you have to learn how to avoid them and protect yourself.
I'm so glad you mentioned that too, because we all see a lot of the headlines of the upsides, including
Yeah.
your story too. Cause I mean, making 12,500 is no small, oh, no problem. We just did that in 5 weeks. But it is risky. So there are
Yeah.
downsides to it to be, aware of and to play safely. So I appreciate you mentioning that.
Yeah, for sure. There's everyone that has had wins has also had losses. And I've also had losses beyond that. So yeah, hopefully the goal at the end of the day is to make a profit and to have more wins than losses. But
Mhm.
it's a learning experience and you're in a high risk asset, right? So you have to learn how to embrace the losses and hopefully learn enough to offset that and have more wins.
And what would you say is your outlook for the future of NFTs? What do you think how we're going to evolve into with these? I know you mentioned before that they have utility now. They can be used for other purposes other than, photos of apes,
Yeah.
right? Like there's
Yeah.
a lot more to it than that. So what are some of your either outlook, predictions, or even your hope for the utility of these products in the future?
Yeah. So I think that we're really just scratching the surface of what NFTs will be right now. And it's really hard to conceptualize where they can go. So, like, if we're thinking about where they will evolve in different areas like art and gaming and music and events and even luxury goods, um, it's true right now that people are making money buying and selling these NFTs. And a lot of people are interested in the metaverse aspect of NFTs. Gaming NFTs have exploded. Those are very big. You have a lot of companies acquiring NFT brands. Nike acquired an NFT brand. Snoop Dogg is planning to take his record label, Death Row Records, and take that into the metaverse to have like virtual music events and things like that. You also have brands like Gucci who are partnering with NFT brands. Disney is hiring people for their NFT initiative. So you can't really ignore the fact that these major companies are looking to make their footprint in the NFT space. So what we don't know is how, like, in the different areas things will turn out or how things will change. Right now, people are making money, like I said, trading NFTs and making money on those. But in the future, is that what NFTs will still be, or will they have a deeper value than that? The way I see it is that the NFT brands, which are more like startup companies now, right? They're small companies now, but they're going to be major brands like Disney. And the fact that you have so many people coming from these like crazy backgrounds, like Google and, big gaming companies and all of these places that are part of these NFT brands creating NFTs collections is totally wild. And so, you also have things like there's an NFT that gives you access to, higher end restaurants. I think it's just in New York. There's an NFT that gives you access to golfing. It's like a golfing membership. So how these are going to evolve in all the different areas is kind of beyond what I can even comprehend. But I think the deeper value beyond that is understanding that they're all built on a smart contract that track transactions. So I think the underlying contract and how that will evolve is where the future is going. Like, I believe it was last month too, that a home in Florida was auctioned off as an NFT. So if you think about the fact that property could also have NFTs, be an NFT and have their underlying contract on the blockchain and paid for in cryptocurrency, like that is where we're going.
Right. And someone brought this up the other day when we were talking about crypto and said, I mean, look at, for example, right, with the advent of COVID, look at the QR code. The QR code was something that all of our parents had no idea how to do or what it was. Like, what's that weird little squiggly thing? That's what is that for? And they could afford to just say, I'm not worried about that. Now everyone knows how to open a menu
Yes.
from the code. And I think that NFTs and crypto are kind of in a similar realm of you won't have to till you have to. And you
Yes.
might as well learn.
Yes. Yeah. And I think you're totally right. And that's such a good analogy. But I also think that there's like such that benefit of knowing early rather than too late. 'Cause in terms of your wealth potential, and if you get into, if Bitcoin hits 100,000 within a year and a half, right now it's at 38,000. You could literally, if you invested, I don't know, a few thousand, 10,000, something like that into Bitcoin, that could easily be, 30,000 in less than 2 years. That's pretty massive. The same thing for NFTs. You have a platform like OpenSea, which is the largest NFT marketplace. And currently today, it's a decentralized platform, meaning that there's no real oversight of your assets. Like, you're responsible for protecting them. That is the largest platform today, and that only has about 600 to 800,000 users. You have a company like Coinbase, who is a publicly traded company, who's also, that's a financial institution. They're building a platform, will be released very soon. They plan on NFTs. It's going to be an NFT marketplace, but they're also going to be allowing people to purchase NFTs with I believe they're partnering with MasterCard. So on a credit card, you won't even need Ethereum or something like that. And if you think about NFT collections generally an average range for how many items in an NFT collection is around 5,000 to 10,000. Generally, if it's an artist collection, it's less. If you get into one of those collections early, that is then going to be on Coinbase, lowering the barrier to entry for people on Coinbase to purchase an NFT. The value of your NFT is just due to supply and demand, because if the supply is not there, the demand is higher, the price goes up, the value of your assets increase. So being early, I think, is also just incredibly important, because you can benefit financially from that.
Right, right. And I'll go ahead and add in one more disclaimer on the tax side of things, that just to say, tell your professional if you're engaging in anything with crypto. It doesn't necessarily mean anything for you right away, but the IRS and anyone really in regulation, they're watching this closely. And one of the things, even on our tax returns now, you have to actually check a little box on your tax return that says, did you engage in any type of cryptocurrency transaction? It doesn't mean anything for your actual ultimate tax number, but I think this is almost like a survey saying who's engaging with this, what do we need to be looking out for? Because as they add regulation, they're going to have to accommodate, well, how are we going to operationalize and implement these regulations? What are the expectations we can realistically set? And who is participating in this out in the market? So I think there's an element of that included. And they also want to understand what they could be honestly missing out on in the crypto market from a tax perspective. And I think that that's going to be an interesting evolution as well, seeing that unfold.
Yes, for sure. Because, capital gains are capital gains. So once you realize that gain and sell something for a profit, an NFT crypto, you're taxed on that. So even if say you move Ethereum is the cryptocurrency, the stable coin used to purchase most NFTs. So say you then move your Ethereum over to get prepared to buy an NFT. As soon as you buy an NFT with that Ethereum, then that's, if you have a gain on that Ethereum, then that's a taxable event. You sell that NFT later for a profit, that's also a taxable event. So yeah, and understanding the tax side of things and tuning into that is definitely important, because you do have to report that.
Yeah. And I think a lot of folks are going to be blindsided at tax time if they don't plan ahead and understand that every time you make money, Uncle Sam will try to take his share of that in some form or fashion, whether that's the capital gains or maybe one day the IRS evolving it into ordinary income. We don't know. So you want to make sure you understand the tax implications of what are you going to be expected to pay on that, especially if you're making a decent amount of money trying to trade NFTs. You just have to know what the implications are of that and make sure you're ready.
Yes. And this is why also when you have your losers, just like if loser NFTs, just
Right.
like stocks, you can, you know, tax loss harvest, which is beneficial. So you can offset your gains by, you know, selling your losers and any losses that you have, which reduces your tax liability.
Right. Right.
Yeah.
So Lisa, I've really enjoyed this conversation and getting to know a little bit more about NFTs. And I actually learned a lot too, just about the basics of it, which I think is really helpful. And a couple more questions. One is, how can folks find out more information about what you know and about how they can be coached by you through their first NFT trades?
Yeah. So I mostly hang out on Instagram. So it's at Lisa Seery Finance on Instagram. I talk a lot about NFTs and crypto there. I also still talk about traditional stock market investments, but I'm very interested in the digital assets these days and us embracing that future technology. So yeah, that's where you can find me.
Awesome. We'll make sure we link that in the show notes so you can find Lisa on her Instagram and make sure you're following her and tag her with a screenshot of today's episode with something you learned today about NFTs. I know you learned something. I know you did not know all this. So make sure that you're tagging her as well. Now, Lisa, I like to cap off every episode with a guest with a couple of rapid fire questions. So these will be
Okay.
fun. And I realized as I was reviewing my questions, because God knows I don't know them by heart by now. But I was reviewing them and I was thinking, you could say NFTs for any one of these, but we'll keep it to non-NFT answers because those will be easy. Um,
Okay.
Lisa, what is one investment that you currently can't live without?
That I can't. Oh, this is such a this is such a hard question for me. Something that I can't live without.
Yeah.
I will have to say in this market, gold.
So a literal investment.
Physical and ETFs. Mhm.
Got it. Got it. Got it. That the question varies. Some people take it super, all my finance people take it super literally as like one investment I can't live without as a literal,
A
asset.
financial instrument.
Right.
Yeah.
Some
That's
people
too
it's like
funny. That's the only way my brain went.
right. And a lot of folks say my phone or a book or
Oh,
whatever. But I love all answers. Gold is a great one. What did you learn about money that turned out not to be true?
oh, that is such a good question, Shannon. What did I learn about money that turned out not to be true? That saving is the best way to really build your wealth. Because look at us today with over 7% inflation. That eats away at your savings.
Yeah, I love how you laugh while you say that too.
Well, I think that applied many, many, many decades ago, but not
Hmm.
necessarily today.
Yeah, I find that to be the case too. I'm realizing that we're getting outdated advice that we're carrying with us for too long.
Mm.
And I think that's one of them too. And lastly, what makes you feel like a millionaire?
What makes me feel like a millionaire? I think just the little things that I do in my daily life. I really like to, and what I try and practice is to make things an experience that really like fills me up and lights me up. And one of my new things is like if I'm having a snack to like plate my snack so I feel fancy and like in my full like multi-millionaire energy. So I really just think experiences for me.
You mean like with a garnish and like drizzling the sauce around like a dessert at a fancy restaurant?
I mean, Shannon, let's not take it too far. I'm not putting like sprigs of mint on my plate and things like that. But no, I have like cute little snack plates. I've got these Jonathan Adler snack plates. They've
Love
got
it.
gold on them. Yeah, it's a little bougie and I like it.
I love that. I love getting to know our guests this way. This is so fun.
It is.
Awesome. Well, I've really appreciated your time, Lisa. Thank you for sharing your knowledge with us. And I'm sure if folks have more questions, please, please, please check out Lisa's page, follow her on Instagram, and come join us in the Keep What You Earn community where we'll be talking about this episode and any others you have questions on. Lisa, thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Shannon. It was so much fun.
All right. We'll see you soon.